Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. As you know, individuals in travel, leisure, entertainment and hospitality have been decimated as a result of this pandemic. But as the $1,400 stimulus checks start to make their way to millions of our fellow Americans, there's been a lot of speculation about what exact impact this will have. Are people likely to invest it in the stock market? Are people likely to invest this money on eating out? Are people likely to invest this money in shopping and retail therapy, in what some called revenge spending? I'm gonna spend money. Yeah, that's not how I normally am. But in some brand new reporting, it seems that individuals are going to be spending this money on travel. Yes, people are just sick and tired of being home, and people want to start traveling and people want to get out there. Here's some brand new reporting from Bloomberg on your screen. Americans signal they'll spend stimulus on travel, not GameStop. This means that individuals are likely to use the stimulus check to get on a plane, to get on a train, to take a break and essentially get out of their house and finally travel and see the world or different parts of the country, or meet friends and family, or meet relatives in distant states or distant countries. People just want to get out and people want a break from staying at home all the time. Now, what's interesting is with the $600 stimulus checks, a lot of people just pumped that money back into the stock market. But now that the economy is starting to reopen, now that individuals are essentially starting to go back to their daily lives slowly across the country, the impact of the $1,400 stimulus check is going to result in more travel. Here's a quote on your screen from this Bloomberg article. But with the economy gradually opening, the calculus is less simple this time around, as $410 billion starts to land in bank accounts around the country. Back then, meaning with the second stimulus check of $600, pajama-clad gamblers and board workers who didn't need the cash turned into market newbies, driving a surge in brokerage accounts and fueling the stock rally. In fact, the article continues, new data suggests vaccinated Americans are emerging from lockdowns ready to splurge on plane tickets instead of airline stocks. Disneyland beckons along with beach vacations and visits to relatives. Disneyland sounds interesting. Wall Street analysts are noticing predictions that day traders would pour cash into the market have turned into forecasts for a surge in retail spending. In fact, here's proof of a pent-up demand in travel. Let's show you this chart on your screen. Staying grounded, travel agencies lost $70 billion in airline bookings in 2020. Let's take a look at the trends through the years leading up to 2020. In the 6 years prior to the pandemic, the total amount of flight transactions was approximately $90 billion a year. In 2020, that total fell to $23 billion, and so far in 2021, it just stands at $2.8 billion. There is a huge pent-up demand for people who want to now get on flights. In fact, let's take a look at the Dallas Fed Mobility Index. This basically indicates how likely are people to pack their bags and go on a trip somewhere. Take a look at this chart on your screen and take a look at where we were on the index prior to the pandemic and how sharply we fell in March, April, May of 2020. And now look at the index. It started to come back down and then it stuttered a little, and now it's starting to surge back to where things were prior to the pandemic. People are starting to pack their bags and people are starting to travel again, and travel is going to be the number one indicator of a powerful and a strong economic recovery. Now, here's something that's interesting. A Bank of America global research survey found that 53% of those making less than $30,000 a year plan to save, invest, or use the extra money to pay down debt. Historically, that number tends to be very small, but now more and more individuals want to pay down debt. And here's what's interesting. For those among the top fifth of income earners, they want to do something with their money. So it does look like there's going to be a correlation between income and travel. But the bottom line is more and more people now want to travel more and more. Here's another article on your screen, this time from the Wall Street Journal. Las Vegas, after its latest bust, aims for another boom. I think it's safe to say that Las Vegas is the gambling and entertainment capital of the country, and for many people, the gambling and entertainment capital of the world. In fact, Vegas took a big hit as a direct result of the pandemic. Let's show you this chart on your screen, the unemployment rates of the US in gray versus Las Vegas in blue. You'll start to see that the unemployment rate in Las Vegas was always higher than the US unemployment rate. And in fact, this is the alarming part. When the pandemic hit, in the gray zone that you see on the right side of this chart, you'll see that the blue section went way higher than the gray section. In other words, the unemployment ratio in Las Vegas was much higher compared to the rest of the country, and Las Vegas is now expecting to bounce back stronger because people just probably want to go to Vegas and gamble. In fact, while we are on this subject, let's take a look at another chart on your screen of the total non-farm workers, leisure and hospitality versus others. Leisure and hospitality workers made up more than 25% of the workforce in Las Vegas before the pandemic, and job losses have been severe in the past 12 months as a direct result of the pandemic. As we move from left to right, you'll see that 25% of the workforce was all related to leisure and hospitality. Empty hotel rooms imply that there's no job essentially for not only the cleaning staff but also the front desk staff, the valets, people in the restaurants who work at those fancy hotels. Essentially, it creates a chain reaction which results in a loss of hundreds of thousands of jobs. And now those jobs are starting to come back because people are packing their bags and heading to Las Vegas and different parts of the country. And this is the leading indicator of the economic recovery. And here's another sign of an accelerating economic recovery. Here's an article on your screen from Bloomberg. Bars and restaurants are about to go on an epic post-pandemic hiring spree. Signs of life are emerging as restaurants and bars and salons are indeed starting to open up, and Goldman economists from Goldman Sachs are predicting a 4.1% unemployment rate by the end of the year, which will be excellent because prior to the pandemic, we were at 3%. Look, this really took the wind out of the economy for almost a year. It's expected that we rebound sharply, not only as far as travel is concerned, because I alluded to Las Vegas and other travel earlier, but leisure and hospitality, specifically restaurants and bars, salons, are all expected to reopen, leading to a strong bounce back in the economy. So if I had to rank the leading economic indicators, I would say that travel is first and leisure and hospitality is number 2. In fact, here's something interesting. Weather has a lot to do with the economic recovery. The weather in February was quite unusual in different parts of the country. We all remember what happened in Texas. And so here's some reporting from economists at Bloomberg. Were it not for inclement weather, the February payroll print would have been closer to 400,000 or more. In other words, many more people would have been employed as opposed to still remaining on unemployment. The reopening of the economy plus payback for bad weather. In other words, as the weather gets a lot better, and boy oh boy, I can tell you I'm looking forward to better weather. The reopening of the economy plus payback for bad weather will lead to a much stronger outcome in March, according to economists from Bloomberg. Let's take a look at this chart from Bloomberg. Leisurely comeback. That's pretty interesting. A comeback for leisure that's kind of leisurely. Although if you're in the travel, leisure, entertainment and hospitality industry, I don't blame you if you're not smiling. Restaurants and hotel jobs are still down 20% after completely cratering last spring. Let's look at the trends as we go from back prior to the pandemic and that big, massive dip that occurred during the pandemic. We started to recover, then we tapered off a little bit, and now the recovery is gradually picking up steam. And as the weather gets better, as the economy reopens, as more people get vaccinated, we are expected to see that dark line come back to where we were prior to the pandemic. My prediction is the end of this year, no later than the first quarter of next year. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope we can get there even before the end of the year. And that does seem to be a distinct possibility because these are good signs that are emerging every single day. So that's it. That's where things stand, everybody. It's not like it's raining money just yet. So you see that? That's one of my favorite effects, as you know. It's not like it's raining money, but these are all encouraging signs because travel is the leading indicator of economic recovery and people are starting to pack their bags and travel again. I mean, put yourself in the shoes of someone who's been cooped up at home for a long time, just as you have been, I'm sure. And if you could, would you not want to get out of the house and essentially travel somewhere? This doesn't necessarily mean you'll get on a plane. You could get in your car, you could get on a train, you could just go somewhere just so that you have a break from being stuck indoors for a long time. Something you are not accustomed to doing, something you were forced to do, and something that you hopefully no longer have to do. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. I want you to know that I greatly appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Please click the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. That would mean a lot to me personally. I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Thank you. Take care. Bye.